All right, we're rolling. Welcome to Senor Pablo's terrifying guitar trip. Well, I think when you're first starting out, the most important thing is to learn things that are easy enough that you can play them right away. So so it keeps you playing, and that's usually chords. You know, just learn like a D chord and strumming it over and over again. It's like making real music, and it's pretty easy. And you don't even worry about playing leads right away or anything. And if you do, keep them simple. Just do some, bends. And that, you'd be surprised, even after you've been playing, 10 or 20 years, sometimes that stuff's still the best sounding stuff.
Miley Cyrus might play this song? Hey, give me a quarter and tell me who's somebody who gives a shit.
And once you get playing a couple of years, just make sure you find a drummer. That makes you better than anything. Is you find a drummer and just play all the time, and sort of a real life thing. And your ears start to go a little bit, but it's a lot of fun and makes you a much better musician.
Paul's secret. It's the secret of Paul's success.
It's perfectly in tune.
See that?
In the middle.
For all you future rock and roll stars out there.
Now it's time to tune. Here's an E! Here's an A! Here's a D! Here's a G! Here's a B! And here's the last E!
A lot of people ask me how I warm up my hands before I play. And I'm going to show you some licks that help me out a whole lot. This first one has, it's mostly for the right hand, picking lick. And I use sort of a twangy kind of guitar sound. And I hit a lot of notes twice. I hit the A note twice, the G, and on down. And I put a C and a C sharp in the middle. So all together it sounds like this. And I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. It sounds something like this. This next one, also for your right hand, but works in the left hand a little bit too. You can do it on two strings. Let me show you a version first, the simple version, which is on the top two strings. I'm going to start way up high here on the B note, sort of in the key of C major or A minor, and here's a slow version. That's the pattern. And then I just take that down the scale, which sounds like this. I only use notes out of A minor or C major. Kind of like that. Let me try it a little bit quicker. That's all alternate picking, starting with a downstroke. Let's speed it up a little teeny bit more. And let me see if I can get that a little bit quicker just for fun. Now you'll find that a couple of those are kind of tricky for the left hand, especially that second to last one. And even if you don't play it very fast, it's a real good warm-up just to sort of get your coordination together in the morning when your fingers are sleepy. Just over and over again. So that's that one. Let me show you the hip note version, which has sort of an A, kind of an A blues, Dorian, jazzy feel. A bunch of weird musical words that don't really mean anything, but unless you know how they sound. And here's how it sounds real slow. Pretty strange slow. It starts to sound more natural as you speed it up. And you don't necessarily have to pick all of it. You can do more pull-offs if you want to, which sound kind of like this. Or picked again. Here's another one. You're a little more warmed up now. You've been doing a couple things. This one, a little more pull-off, left-hand oriented. Let me do the lick slow. The fingering for it's one of my favorite fingerings because it's all the same. It's just the 8th, 7th, and 5th frets on those top 3 strings. And then I think I do something with the root A. Those are the notes. Here's the pattern. Let me do that a little bit quicker. And one more time. And what I did is I made a little blues progression. I don't know if it's not that bluesy, but it's the same chords as blues. Did that one in A, and then I did one identical. Well, actually, it's not identical. It's a little bit different in D, where I changed the fingering to be like this. But I do the same pattern. Then I just move that up a whole step to the E position. And then I have this wacky scale that I invented, or I don't know if I invented it, but it's something I came up with, where I do that same pattern again. Here's the scale shape. And it sounds like this. Okay, that's a lot to remember, so let me play it a couple times, and it'll make sense because you'll be listening to it. And let me speed that up a little bit for you. This one's a good warm-up for both hands. It's kind of interesting because most 3-note per string scale licks are pretty much start at one point of the scale and either go up or down. And you know, you normally, if you're in, I don't know, C major or something, you do this sort of thing. And what I tried doing is, instead of going straight up, like 1, 2, 3, I sort of reversed it and went 1, 3, 2. And I don't know if I'm just using those numbers to, not so much for the fingers, but to demonstrate the direction of the notes. So instead of going, you'd go all the way up. So instead of going, you'd go. Like that. It starts to sound pretty neat as you speed it up. So I'm going to try an exercise where I start off on the B note, still playing a C major scale, but sound like this, real slow. Then I go up the scale and do another set, starting on that A note. So it sounds like. Then pretty much the same thing, but this time I start on the C. Still C major scale. And I go up one more. So the whole thing, we'll put it together now so it'll sound normal. And I'll try that a couple times. One more time. You can also do it where you take a C major scale on the top 2 strings and just do it up and down in steps, like this. So you'd go. And so on, just up and down. Real good for coordinating fingers on your left hand. Let's give that a try. It's a little bit slow. Well, actually, my first time I worked with a producer was Mike Varney, back when I was doing the Racer X stuff. And I was really surprised because he suggested a couple small changes to the songs, and I was really terrified. You know, I didn't want to change my songs that I worked so hard on. But I was polite, and I thought, well, at least try them. And so we tried the ideas out, and some of them actually sounded better. Crazy puppy. And so that was an amazing thing for me to realize, that someone else could have an idea that actually worked. And So I thank Mike for that. And second producer I worked with was Kevin Elson, who we did all the Mr. Big records with. He's very cool, comes with lots of good ideas, and knows a lot about how to get good sounds onto the record and put all the instruments together. And a lot of times I just sit back and watch these guys, because they've done so many more records than I have, and I put in my thing, but make sure that I keep their ideas in mind, and hopefully someday I can know what's going on myself.
Okay.
It's always fun.
Next song.
Well, here's a new thing I've been doing, a new pattern that involves string skipping. It starts off with an E minor kind of shape, something like this. If you've seen any of my other instructional videos, you've definitely seen that before. It's got a couple little variations on it. I like the way it sounds. So let me play through it kind of slow. You can get the feel of it. It sounds like this. And here's a version that's a little bit quicker. Same thing, but I'm going to add a little distortion too. Now, to play things like this, it's not really as complicated as it might seem. It's just a lot of small things with the same pattern. The first one is that E minor one, and I don't even pick everything. I do a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs. Here's the pull-offs, and here's the hammer-ons, and then I do a little pull-off thing here. You know, your basic old-style electric guitar lick. that kind of thing. So the whole thing sounds like. And basically take that pattern and just put it into different kind of chord shapes. Second one is a, oh, that would be an A major. Next one's a D major. Then you got, that's a B minor, I guess. Then I get this wacky diminished one. And then I got a F sharp major. Then a B minor. Then I do a B major. And do a little pull-off pattern in there. So that whole thing together one more time. Of course, this is a string skipping lick, and you do just that. Like in that first section, you play the E string. You don't even do anything to the B string except make sure it doesn't make any noise. Then you go to the G string. And I actually do a lot of pull-offs. Makes it much easier for your right hand. And then you just skip on back. I think I was about 17 years old, and I'd been sending tapes to a guy in California for a couple of years, a guy named Mike Varney, and he thought he liked the tapes that I sent him. And when I finally moved out to California, he offered me an independent record deal, and I didn't know the difference between an independent or a major deal, so I was really excited. And did a couple. We actually ended up putting a band together called Racer X. I met the guys, met them all in LA. Some of them were going to GIT, the school I was going to. Some of the other guys I just met through Mike Varney. And we did the first record up in San Francisco. Took about a week or 10 days to do it and mix it. It was really fast. We rehearsed a ton, so we didn't need to do a lot of second takes or anything. Rehearsal saved us money there. It's a good idea. And we did a couple more records. Played a lot of live gigs. We were actually at one point one of the bigger live bands in LA, but for some reason we had a hard time getting out. And we seemed to do well as far as we could drive. We drove to San Francisco, did good there. Drove to Phoenix, did good there, but we needed some new cars or something. Then one day Billy Sheehan gave me a call, and he just initially wanted to play some copy tunes. So I went over to his house, and we both knew all these accept tunes, and we were kind of surprised that we both knew those, because that's sort of an obscure heavy metal band, but we were both into them. And we got to talking about putting a band together, and we found Eric Martin and Pat Torpy, started rehearsing, did a demo tape, and got a really good manager, a guy named Herbie Herbert. That helped a lot, and pretty soon we were doing our first record and out on the road, and boy, it's been busy ever since. Well, let's see. I think I've got about 3 records with Mr. Big now, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I do on those records that came out good. One of my favorites is from a song called Green Tinted 60s Mind. And the way I wrote this was kind of interesting because the last thing that I wrote in it was the guitar part at the beginning, which is probably the coolest guitar thing in it. Originally I had something completely different. I just had a little chord thing. Little chord thing like that. And I ended up just wanting to spice it up a little bit, spruce it up a little bit. And I came up with this. It outlines those same chords, but it's kind of a trickier lick. Let me play it for you real quick. That one. And you know, I just figured it out by taking each chord. That's sort of an E chord with just E major. So I did, and then it goes up to the suspended chord. So that's why I put that A. It happens right at that time, and I just went through the whole thing that way. Again, it's got that A. So that all outlines that suspended chord. And then I had the sort of a D with an E in the bass. So that's why I put the D note in there. And I still have the E from the low chord. It gets confusing when it gets slow. It ends up back at E major. It's sort of interesting when you learn to play this because you're using both your hands and they're not really close together. They're kind of far apart, so your eyes sort of have to do the opposite of what they do when they cross. And It's a while to get used to it, but once you do, you use a lot of your peripheral vision. It works out pretty cool. This one's from a song called Colorado Bulldog, and it's probably one of the scariest things that I've ever played. It involves big stretches and fast picking and fast left-handed stuff, and I think the only reason that I can do it is I used part of it for a warm-up for so long that it sort of became second nature. And then ended up having to add on to it, sort of reverse it. But I'll start off from the beginning. It's in the key of E, so it starts on an E. And the whole thing is pentatonic, but it's very weird fingerings for pentatonic. It's all 3-note per string, and it's all big stretches. It starts off on the E. Sounds like this. So there's 6 notes. There's another 6 starting in the next step of the scale. Next 6. Next. Just keeps on going up. I do a little string skip here. No G string in there. Another string skip between the G string and the E. And now we're on the B string and the high E. Then I slide it with my pinky to the B. And that's all the ascending part. I'll do it all together. And for the picking, I actually pick the first note and do 2 hammer-ons, and then I pick the last 3 with alternate picking. Starting with an upstroke, if you can believe it. Let me try that together a little bit quicker. So that's the first half. Then you do almost exactly the same thing, but down. Same notes, but I change a couple fingerings to make it easier to play. So I start on that B that I ended on, and go and do descending 6s. And just end it with that E note. Let me do that together. Picking for this is a downstroke, then an up, a down, and an up. So I'll do the whole thing together kind of mid-tempo. Whole thing a little bit quicker. And up to speed. One more time. And then if you put the 2 together, if you're lucky, it'll come together. I'll give it a try, see how it sounds. Oh, one more time.
There you go, Paul.
Well, I'm happy to be using my capo. It's a cheap capo, a cheapo capo. And I'm happy to be using my Rick. One of
Yeah.
the guitars. Notice the slanted frets. Supposedly allows you to play 10 to 15% faster.
Absolutely.
10 to 15% faster with these slanted frets.
It's like being on 11.
Here's a little idea that will make all of your endings to solos sound real professional and like you meant to end them there. All it is sliding off whatever note you happen to be on and turning down your volume so you don't hear any extra noise, and if you've got a reverb or a delay, you can hear that kind of end it for you, which sounds real cool. You know, anything you're playing at all, if you're going you just slide, and when you're done with the slide, turn your volume down. So let's try that one more time with a couple other things. Let's see. And let's try one that kind of goes up. You could also slide up. You know? And whatever it is that you do last sort of hangs in the air, which I like. Gives it that pro sound.
That was Paul Gilbert on the Singing Sword.
This next one is the intro to a song called The Whole World Is Gonna Know. It's in D minor, the saddest key, and goes something like this. And I just like it because it's kind of slow and musical. It's got some weird kind of chord shapes in it, like this one. And I just slide up. And I'm already in position to play that C note. I do that chord there. Then I do this weird B flat chord. I'll have the music guy figure out what that's called later, but I'm stumped. Then I hit an open A and this chord. Then we've got a little G thing. And this little kind of diminished sounding. And when you play this, it really helps you out if you do some muting and some vibrato. Let me show you where that happens. At the beginning, you do some definite muting, then some vibrato, more vibrato. Well, I can't stop it. And it's kind of cool to let those other strings kind of get in there, you know? Very few instruments besides the electric guitar can have those strings warble around like that. If you can control it, it gives it a really cool sound. Ooh, I like that. Pianos can't do that. And speaking of pianos, one thing that pianos can do is you can write a lot of really cool chords on them. And this next song I actually wrote on piano, but ended up having to play it on guitar. So I had to use my imagination to come up with some of the chords fingerings. It's in the key of E. And let me play it for you real quick and I'll explain it later. Sounds like this. It's called Nothing But Love anyway. Something like that. A lot of the things that you do on piano is when you have a chord and you have a different bass note. For instance, it starts off with a regular E chord, and then I play a B chord but with an A in the bass. Little suspension thing on there. Then I've got an E chord with the G sharp in the bass. Little trill. Then I've got this A flat chord with a C in the bass. And a C minor, C sharp minor. A D chord. An A B sus, and a B.